Espera, espera. Muy bien.
My attempt is to apply Cuban authenticity to our truth, wisdom, and growth. I became aware of this during my first visit to Havana in 1985. The major shift in perspective was that I could feel myself alive, and all what beforehand existed on the level of doing started to grow into inner sensing. And immediately I knew that this feeling is so powerful that I wanted to share it with my students and colleagues. I've since then taken people to Cuba to reconnect with their own self, nature, sound, and other people. They've learned to acknowledge the value of presence and awareness, things that are often obscured by fear and ambition in competitive dancing. Seeing people liberated from these constraints was a reward unto itself, which got me thinking, how can I bring some of the joys and values back into international style competitive Latin American dancing? It is not so much about comparing the authentic and competitive style, but more about acknowledgement of the specifics and uniqueness of both. However, competitive style could be enriched by conscious implementations of authentic values to various areas of dance expression. And I'm eternally grateful having Professor Dr. Ruth Vermeij by my side throughout all 4 editions of Cuban Experience Project in Havana.
What's interesting about this project, this Barbara Ambroz contribution of decades of traveling to Cuba. And what she's done, she brought home some values and ideas, what people are dancing there, what we can implement in our international dance style. Things like authenticity, values, being organic into yourself. And to be authentic, really, what does it mean? Partly of authenticity means to be really yourself, to be you and to be present in each moment. Then we are authentic. So the idea is not to imitate Cuban culture. It is to use the values from that culture, what we can use and implement in today's style. So what I personally enjoyed in those years of participating in those workshops in Cuba was like the sound, the relationship of the sound, the singing and the movement and the environment, of course. People come, I remember the first time I came in, people don't count their rhythm, they sing, they start singing. And you are immediately feeling that energy into your body. That's one of the values I really enjoy. Another thing I really enjoyed is this improvisation sense, that playfulness right in the moment. That was so nice. I enjoy having a set choreography like in our international style, but even within a set choreography, you can be quite playful about it and contribute more towards the dance rather than just having a set choreography only. What's really nice as well from Cuba is the idea of expression. What is expressed is partly through the self, the expression of movement and music. In a way, the self becomes a little bit less important. In our international scene, the self is so important. There's so much look at me rather than look at my dance. So what's interesting in Cuba too is that the strengths of the medium, with that I mean the components of the dance, the setting, the sound, the people, the technique, you name it, is actually helping you towards a whole feeling of dance. In our institution, often the components of dance, like the setting, the institution, the judges, the competition, the politics, takes over, and fear enters us, and we're losing authenticity and freedom. And I think we can implement those Cuban values into our dancing. I think that will be really exciting.
being grounded is both a physical and a spiritual property. Root support represents the element of earth as well as our stability and safety. In African tradition, dancers cherish Mother Earth by posturing towards her. There is a sense of communication with the ground and with nature in all Afro-Cuban dance styles. When this movement tradition met with the Western one, dances like danson and son evolved. The posture and poise changed towards elegant uprightness and sophisticated dance holds, but the connection with the ground remained. This sensation of being grounded and yet fluid is also supported by the percussive groove, which is present in Latin American music. The intense vibration of percussive instruments stimulates the primary energy center in the body, the so-called root chakra, which is located at the base of the tailbone and connected to the feet and legs. Feeling the entire body weight through the foot connection with the ground is essential for earthy and fluid movement in every dance style. It's at the core of the balancing process. Being aware of pulling the floor and pressing against it, minding the consistent vertical, horizontal, and sagittal opposition in the body and simultaneous centering. The feet in authentic Cuban dances caress the floor. Cuban dancers often dance barefoot and they distribute their weight evenly over the entire foot. Foot placement also responds to percussive instruments, especially the clave. A dancer has to relate both feet in order to create a sense of motion rather than just a step. The amount of foot pressure depends on the movement manner and the chosen interpretation. In international style rumba, the most frequently applied footwork is low ball flat. Arriving on the foot early enough provides enough time to apply hip and body movements. Foot articulation, as well as the coordination between the feet and the legs, have a profound effect on timing and rhythm. Hip movements are one of the major characteristics of Latin dancing. Why this body area is expressed in such a unique way goes hand in hand with the music and the always present percussive instruments. The sound and vibration of the rhythm evokes a spontaneous reaction in the human body. The pelvis starts moving in coordinated circles, activating the lower and upper body along the way. Hip movements are also heavily rooted in African tradition, where there's no prejudice against expressing oneself through the central body area, and therefore hip poetics carry narrative value. In competitive dancing, the right use of hip movements can also encourage and facilitate the execution of movement. That's why we speak of the functional value of hip movements. Hip movements are an integral part during weight transfers and weight transportation through the foot. The hip settling is like a spring mechanism, which facilitates the weight transfer. Natural pelvic swing orchestrates the centering. Hip twisting distributes body weight economically, and hip rotation encourages the forward poise and the volume of the entire pelvic motion. The degree of hip settling in rumba is the lowest in comparison to other Latin dances. Cuban dances, danzón and son, introduce two unique features: the contratiempo cubano, Cuban timing, and Cuban motion. The clave pattern stimulates and encourages the dancer to start the movement on the second or on the fourth beat in the bar, and never on beat 1. Hence the name contratiempo, which means against the time. In Cuban music, the clave is a key instrument, which holds everything together and gives the drive and the orientation to the dancers and other musicians. Cuban motion consists of exact and sudden weight transfers, following the clave in company with consistent hip movements and upper body reactions. Cuban song gave a large number of basic syllabus actions, movements and figures to international-style competitive rumba, some also to cha-cha-cha, such as cucaracha, basic movement, progressive walks forward and backward, side step, Cuban rocks, underarm turns, closed and open hip twist to fan, alemana, hockey stick, rope spinning, opening out to right, natural and reverse stop. A very specific way of movement that is recognized in the circles of international style competitive dances as Cuban motion means an exact and sudden weight transfer which follows the clave pattern coupled with consistent hip and body movements. In danzón and son, the dance holds are relaxed rather than fixed. Dance partners simply embrace each other. There is a continuous sense of belonging and surrendering. Danzón is powerful on the inside and minimalistic on the outside. First appearances of social dancing in a couple, known at the time as salon dancing or baile de salon, eventually accepted African movement characteristics, so-called contratiempo cubano, hip movements, and smooth ball-flat foot articulation. African movement traditions were joined with the Western hold, which is elegant and graceful, yet sensual like an embrace. The touch carries the awareness of the skin rather than muscles, joints, and bones. Both the touch giver and the touch recipient are talking to each other.
No cabe duda que no es tan fácil encontrar en este mundo lo que despierta un sentimiento tan profundo.
Guaguancó is the most popular style of authentic Cuban rumba with heavy emphasis on hip movement and clear display of African movement elements such as flexed knees, constant dynamic changes of speed, space, weight and flow of a high intensity. Dance partners communicate without physical contact, and the connection between them has a pantomimic quality to it. Occasionally a man would dance close to a woman and wrap his scarf around her shoulders while barely touching her. In Guaguancó, the vacunao, English vaccination, a symbolic gesture of fertilization, is the goal. In Africa, fertility is not only erotic, but also means life and survival. Vacunao is one of the oldest symbols still alive out of the jungle among the urban population. The man executes a vacunao with his hand, foot, or most frequently with a pelvic push towards the woman. A woman seems uninterested at first, tries to avoid him, but eventually attracted to him, allows him to dance near her. She dances with grace and seductiveness, but always tries to avoid the vacunao. She escapes the vacunao by protecting her front pelvic area with a covering gesture, while sustaining the rhythm and maintaining a seductive attitude. According to popular belief, hers is the show of love and his is the love of show. But rumba itself triumphs over such differences. The roles of the woman and the man collapse into a unity of movement, perhaps moving unity. The values of Cuban rumba Wawanko, which can be acknowledged and preserved in international style competitive rumba, are the values of meaningful dance partnering, the power of eye contact between the dancers, consistent reacting to each other's movement, fully participating and being totally in the moment. Rumba represents a genuine dance relationship between the female and male principle. It will continue to evolve in various cultural contexts, providing new opportunities for creative interplay, allowing new aesthetic elements to appear. There is a space for playfulness in every dance style. Two people dancing together are in a movement dialogue. The way they react to each other's movement can be unpredictable and invigorating. When applied intentionally, play is a great opportunity to awaken the inner child and encourage spontaneous creativity. Only by being totally present in the moment can dance partners react to each other's movement and pace their messages towards creative dialogue.
Duda que no es tan fácil encontrar en esto.
Rumba Wawanko, danzón, and zone movement patterns are flexible, rounded, and circular. They stimulate curiosity, they are mysterious and difficult to guess. Angles and distances between dance partners don't guarantee a predictable answer. On the other hand, they carry clear, non-verbal messages. Space talks.
Aquel ayer, recuerdo de tu amor rendido, vuelve a renacer y siento que de nuevo soy feliz.
In authentic dances, the atmosphere is sensual, intimate, with sustained energy, but at the same time spiced up with sudden and unpredictable movements. Vacunao comes out of the blue, possibly as a surprise from the man to the woman, while her reaction encourages him to persist in the game. The variety of energy keeps the communication vital and interesting, but most of all sincere and real. Expression is coming from the movement, it is not added or acted out.
en este mundo, lo que despierta un ser.
The name cha-cha-cha is onomatopoetic, which means that the word imitates the source of the sound. Feet are caressing the floor in a light manner. The sound sh-sh-sh gave the name to cha-cha-cha. Therefore, the footwork is mostly low ball flat. Body shaping in combination with gestures create designs which are playful, slightly provocative yet naive, with a mood of lightness and happiness. Postures and gestures merge into a unique language. Show the lead is a frequently used action typical for cha-cha-cha.
Cha-cha-cha! Cha-cha-cha! Cha-cha-cha!
Wapacha timing is one of the most popular rhythmical expressions in cha-cha-cha and a great example of syncopation in movement. In technical terms of Latin American competitive dancing, Wapacha timing means that the step, motion, which is normally taken on the second beat of the bar, is delayed and taken a half or even 3/4 of a beat later. This variation of basic rhythm was influenced by Cuban traditional music. In dynamic terms, Wapacha timing means that the energy, flow of the movement has to be held longer than usual, right to the point from which it becomes inevitable to freeze out. Wapacha timing is a dancer's skill to intuitively organize the flow of the motion in time with such precision that the next syncopated movement creates a surprise effect. Cuban cha-cha-cha is in its essence a happy and easy social dance. In its original form, it can be danced solo or in a couple. Cuban cha-cha-cha dancers would portray the movement on 4 and 1 in every bar of the music. The movement dialogue becomes much more interesting by adding various movement accents which, like punctuation in literature, help organize the movement phrases and introduce variety as an opposition to the basic rhythm consistency. Often used accents in cha-cha-cha would be impulse, impact, rebound, percussive, and suspension. The movement dialogue then becomes unpredictable, playful, joyful, with no set answer and full of spontaneous reactivity. When international style competitive dancers experience Cuba, they feel like traveling upstream, as if they are reconnecting with their true self and values. Competitive dancing is too often aimed at achieving and winning only. It requires intention and attention in order to reach the goal, something yet to be attained in the distance. The focus is in the future, and the mind is so full of expectations that the connection with the present state of being gets lost. However, deep down, the body and mind are one. An intelligent, sensitive person needs an intelligent, sensitive body. And the prime purpose to dance was to connect with the divine world and later on to celebrate and enjoy life. Both purposes require being fully aware in the moment. And when a dancer is connected and in tune with their own self by being present in their own body, the movement is sincere and authentic. Only then can we be the bridge between the past and the future, a meeting point where authentic and competitive become one. The point of implementation is integration of recognized authentic values into one's individual world. It can be far more than one or the other. Cuban culture leans towards the earthy, instinctive, and the spiritual, intuitive, while Western culture gives priority to mental, intellectual layers. The only way to learn is to experience. For the aware dancer, everything happens for the first time. The efficiency comes out of the presence and being here and now. There are things which cannot be taught, but they can be caught. Hints which can fall in our hearts like seeds. They evoke excitement and pleasure, provoke us into awakening, stimulate awareness, and help us to remember why we embrace dance in the first place.